are back at the bottom of the hour. Our QB is Dan Orlovsky, and let's do some quick reads. Let's start with Caleb Williams, Dan. What are, for folks who haven't seen much of him, what are his biggest strengths?
He is an elite reactor. Nobody made more plays and splash plays outside of the pocket than Caleb Williams. He's got some incredible reaction, incredible athleticism. His ability to throw twitchy while on the run is absolutely spectacular. I'd like to see him throw in rhythm a little bit more, but Greeny, he is an incredibly athletic talent that makes him very special.
Those plays look a lot like Mahomes. All right, let's talk about the guy you love, Jayden Daniels.
Ball placement. When you watch the stroke, look at the left arm stay tight to the chest and the ball placement down the field versus tight coverage. It's absolutely spectacular. I think he plays incredibly fast in every aspect of his game, both athletically, intellectually, and the way he throws the football. When it comes to I have to throw guys open versus tight coverage, Jayden Daniels does that with his placement of the football.
And then the big kid from Carolina, Drake Maye. What's his strength?
Yeah, throwing the football downfield accurately. One of the things that North Carolina's offense did, probably too much, was try to take shot after shot after shot. And Drake Maye was consistently willing to do that. He's an unreal athlete, again, like all these guys are, but his ability to throw the football down the field accurately versus both zone and man coverage is what allows him to be such a big play type of hunter at quarterback.
So when Mel Kiper, who was with us yesterday releasing it, did his second mock draft yesterday, he has these four quarterbacks going in round one, and you see the order there. Boom, boom, boom. Then J.J. McCarthy from Michigan going a little bit later, and then he does not have either Bo Nix or Michael Penix in round one. Both of those are players who figure to be somewhere in the mix. Before I go through some of the sound bites here, do I have Kimberly still, though? I just want to ask her a question. Thank you. Before I go, I know what we were planning, but I need to. So Kmart, I mean, those are the three guys that everyone has been talking about. What is the sense you're hearing about them as we are now there, right? I mean, they're not going to work out while they're there. So what are the things that are happening with the three superstars at this draft?
Listen, Greeny, the tape is the tape, and that's what's so fascinating about quarterbacks as Orlovsky knows. It's very subjective. Like you guys were talking earlier about Jayden's size and his stature. I've had a lot of team execs tell me, I saw Caleb, he's a little bit not smaller, but a little shorter than I expected. Like, even though you know the measurements, like in person. So all of these guys, there's something you can look at and say, I don't know, do I love that? Is he big enough? Is he strong enough? Can he handle the rigors of the NFL? It is all subjective, which is why who we think will go number one, in a few years, we might look back and say, I don't know if that was the right pick. That is what's so fascinating. But again, the tape don't lie. If you watch these guys week in and week out, you need to be able to project, can this guy work in our system with the coaches that we have? Can we build around his skill set? And you know what? If you're convicted in a guy, go for it, because it's your job on the line ultimately.
I'm so glad you said all that. I want to make a quick point to both of you guys. So of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, if you look at all of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, the only one of them who was the first quarterback taken in their own draft was Joe Burrow. None of the rest of them were. So the point is, the uncertainty on all this is overwhelming. And to Kimberly's point that the tape is the tape, these guys talk themselves out of and into all of these ideas. If the draft were held right now, where they didn't have time to overthink all of these decisions and just base the decisions on things they saw on the field, it is my theory that far fewer huge mistakes would be made in the process. What do you think of that?
Well, there's a reason why they put candy bars at the checkout aisles of grocery stores, because it's nice and shiny. And I've always said this in regards to the quarterback position. When it comes to the draft, misevaluate quarterbacks because we evaluate them like we do every other position. If I'm going to take an offensive tackle early in the draft, I want big, fast, powerful, strong. If I'm going to take a defensive end earlier in the draft, I want big, fast, powerful, strong. If I'm going to take a wide receiver, big, fast, powerful, strong. If I'm going to take a quarterback, how well do you think? How fast do you see things? How can you throw up over a defender the same route and then later in the game have to throw in between two guys? Big, fast, powerful, and strong has become a bigger part of the game, but the things that you cannot measure and that are tough to see when it comes to a combine are the lesser importance than the things that you have to watch tape to be able to identify.
He would.
Yeah, we get so enamored with, I think the thing that kills me about evaluating quarterbacks now, we get so enamored with playing out of structure.
We've gotten away from the things that are most important.
Right. Everything like playing, processing, being accurate, playing in rhythm, on time. That's what wins in the National Football League. And everything else that they do, that's just extra. Mm-hmm. But we've just gone away from the true basic things that wins year in and year out in National Football League.
My old friend Mark Schlereth used to say, no one ever goes in a huddle and says, broken play on 3.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let me get back to where I was supposed to be, which is over here, Cindy. I apologize. Okay, sound off. Interesting people around the world of football saying interesting things. Danny, I really want you to hear Merrill Hodge. If you haven't heard it yet,
buddy.
Our longtime colleague here, he is not a believer in Drake Maye. If you haven't heard it, this is what he said.
I wouldn't touch Maye. I wouldn't grab Maye. I wouldn't draft him in the first round. And there's a bunch of things that bother me. He's extremely inconsistent as his accuracy, his processing inconsistent. He's not extremely athletic. I find him more stiff. He's got a longer throwing motion, which allows more hits in our league than he gets in college.
Dan, your reaction?
I mean, he is extremely athletic. This kid is a superstar athlete. I mean, if you look at the rushing yardage in the last 2 college football seasons compared to him and Caleb Williams, he's got a lot more. So, I mean, the athleticism is off the charts. I don't disagree with the erraticism. Now, I would absolutely take Drake Maye in the first round. This is what needs to happen with Drake Maye, okay, everybody? Drake Maye needs to be Jordan Love. Drake Maye needs to be on the Jordan Love plan. Green Bay was fantastic. I remember being here with you and sitting there saying, man, Jordan Love has got the most wild throws of anybody in that draft class. I feel that way about Drake Maye. The great thing that Green Bay did was realize Jordan Love has some fundamental mechanical flaws. We saw them still a little bit at the early part of this season. Drake Maye's feet are a mess. Okay? So were Jordan Love's coming out of the draft. You have to give this young man time to fix his feet, to work on his feet. That's why, to Merrill Hodge's point, there's some inconsistency. There's some easy misses, both short and long, because his feet are all over the place. So were Jordan Love. So if you want to sit there and if you told me, if America told me, or the general manager told me, we are taking Drake Maye and there's no shot he is going to play to our preference for the first 2 years of his career, I'm in. I'm in. Because if you don't fix your feet going into the NFL, I don't care who you are. Patrick had to do it. Josh Allen had to do it. Lamar had to. I don't care who you are. You have to fix your feet. If he can do that, he's got superstar talent.
You know, the first thing that popped in my mind, I actually started thinking about this morning. The Rams would be like the perfect place.
The Rams.
Like sitting behind Stafford and just, Sean McVay.
Yeah.
Like that would be like, I'm just talking about just what would be ideal for him.
Yeah.
Just to give him an opportunity to like reset everything because the physical tools are there.
No doubt.
There's no question. But I think sitting behind a veteran quarterback like Stafford and really watching and learning, watching the game, to me, like that would be.
He relies on his athleticism too much. That's why he has the poor feet. He is such an unbelievably naturally talented player and athletic guy that he doesn't necessarily believe that. I mean, I don't want to say believe. He just doesn't have the tactical footwork that is going to be needed. If he gets that, everything about this young man is big, strong, powerful, athletic, kind of like what we talked about. Unbelievably hardworking, great leadership skills, highly intelligent. You take those, usually that becomes a good football player in the NFL. I remember getting into this with Booger years ago. Is he ready or not? I don't care if they're ready. He has flaws that he has to fix before you put him on the NFL field.
Super athletic family. His brother was Luke Maye, who was a star basketball player at Carolina. His father was a quarterback at North Carolina before, so he's got all of that going. What kinds of things, Kmart, as you are working the ground, and for those who don't know, Indianapolis is just one, it's perfect for Kmart, candidly, because it's just one huge social event.
Live Twitter.
She's just walking around talking to everybody. What are you hearing about Drake Maye?
Well, again, when you listen to Merrill Hodge, it sounds very harsh, right? And again, this is why I bring up the word subjective, because some guys may look, some even within buildings. That's what's fascinating, Greeny. You might talk to a GM, you might talk to an assistant GM, pro director, and a scout within the same building. Their thoughts about that prospect are very different. So when we get into the process of from now until April, this is where, you know, the battle internally comes in, because one person might be high on something. We have owners sitting in, as Adam Schefter reported, we have owners sitting in on these QB interviews. Everybody has an opinion. So every team sort of has to get to a consensus. It's very hard, as Dan pointed out, with this draft class to really, and these QBs, to pinpoint who is the right one, because they all have traits that you would love, including Drake Maye. But they do need time. Damian, he mentioned what would be great for Drake Maye. That's not all. It's not about what's great for the QB, mostly. It's about what is great for the organization. They like the skill set, but sitting 2 years, that, you know, a team may not have that in their eyes.
That rarely happens with someone drafted that high. You can do that with someone like Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers, who you draft in the 20s. When you draft someone as high as Maye is likely to go, it's going to be hard to justify sitting him as long as those guys have. I like your point. And the best illustration of what Kmart is talking about is there's Merrill Hodge, whose opinion I value. He's saying he wouldn't take him in the first round. Tim Hasselbeck, whose opinion I value, says he's by far the best prospect in this class and thinks he's going to be a superstar. So there is a lot of subjectivity involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, they went up and drafted him at, what, 7, I believe, or
10,
something, or 10, and he
10.
sat for the year. The
Sat
same
for a year.
Buffalo went and got Josh Allen. He sat for, now again, if you take Drake Maye and you play him within the first year of his NFL career, I think you're setting him up for struggles that are unnecessary. But if you take him with the plan of we are sitting you for a year to 2 years and you are going to work on that one thing you have to work on, then you have the chance to get a big-time talent similar to Green Bay and Jordan Love.
All right.